In this lesson, we will learn how to correct flipping issues we might run into after our rig has been connected to the source data, and we'll also learn how to create offsetting controls, also that we can modify the performance throughout the animation. Now this is going to be a really fun lesson. First things first, let me go ahead and show you how to correct flipping issues. For example, the flipping issue we see right here in the character spine. Keep in mind there is a noticeable offset between our spinal controls and the torso control, or our center of gravity. You can see how the center of gravity control doesn't quite match with the angle of the rest of the upper body, and that's why we're running into this flipping issue. It's the center of gravity here that helps keep the rest of the spine stable. So if we were to go ahead and jump to a frame where we notice flipping, let's say frame 25, watch what happens when we now start to rotate this control object. So again, we'll start to twist the torso control to match the angle of the rest of the spine. And take a look at that. Now when we scrub through the animation, no longer will we see any flipping issues. Exciting. All right, so what we can do at this point is save this value with a keyframe. That way we can go ahead and keep this as stable as possible. Another reason why we're doing this is because we have to consider our neutral pose. As of right now, you can see that on frame 0 we still have this twist. So we don't want to throw the rig off on our neutral pose. That can be very problematic. So with that in mind, let's say we go ahead and unlock the Attributes Manager just so we can access our transform properties on the torso control. I'll jump to frame 1, the start of the animation, and I'll go ahead and record the bank axis. Alright, nice. Now, we can go ahead and jump to frame 0, and we can zero out this value in our bank channel. Let's go ahead and right click on the bank slider, and then again we'll go ahead and record this value of 0 on frame 0. And there you have it. So now the spine is stable and all is well. Cool. Now again, what if you wanted to, let's say, animate a few offsets here and there throughout the performance? We know that we could always use the offset properties on the constraint. We've seen that already. But I'd like to show you another way, something that you might find very convenient. That's simply to actually create a control and tie that control to our offset values so that we can offset each of these controls in a more convenient way. So instead of searching for our constraints, searching for those offset values, we simply have a control that we can access right here from the viewport. Neat, huh? So let's go ahead and get started with that. What I'd like to do is go ahead and create a null. We could always use that as our control object. And then I think it's important to see the null. So let's go ahead and head over to our object viewport. We'll go to display. We can choose any one of these. I might go ahead and work with point because it's very easy to select from any angle. Let's say we increase its size a bit. I also find it a bit distracting that it's oriented to the camera when it's first made. So I'll just go ahead and switch to the second choice, X and Y. Nice. Now from here, let's say we align this to the area that we would like to modify. We'll pick on the chest control. Our snap settings should already be in order. Let's go ahead and grab our move tool and we'll just drag this over to the chest bone. Sweet. Now from here, we'll rename this control. That's going to be offset CTRL, just to abbreviate control underscore chest. Nice. Now, the next step is super important. This is to make sure that whenever we start to animate the rotation of this control, it matches with the rotation of the object that's driving this area. So in this case, we just want to match the orientation of this null to our chest bone. Sweet. Again, by doing so, when we start to animate this object, we're animating along the same orientation as the driving object. So with that in mind, let's say we go ahead and parent our null over to the chest bone. So I'll first go ahead and search for the chest bone. There it is. Here's our null. We'll go ahead and drag and drop. Watch what happens when we do that. We've now inherited the transform values of the chest bone. Sweet. So at this point, we can go ahead and zero out our rotation. We could also zero out our position. It's very close. I'll just go ahead and make sure that all values are set to 0. Cool. Now, once we've done that, we can basically go ahead and take this object and basically connect it to the control rig. Since it's the control rig that we're driving this object with, it makes sense that it's connected there and not our source data. So we just wanted to connect it to this joint item, also that we can correct its orientation. But now, when it's time to control this area with the null, let's make sure that the null is a part of the control system. All right, so with that in mind, what I'll do is go ahead and create a copy of the objects manager. Let's go ahead and grab the chest control, and we'll use scroll to first active to find the chest. All right, there's the control object. So now what we can do is go ahead and take our null, and we can go ahead and parent it to the chest control. All right, sweet. So once this has been brought over, feel free to go ahead and freeze your transforms just to kind of zero everything out. You would not want to use the freeze transform tool to zero out your transforms when you initially parented this null to the chest bone, because that's not going to cause the null to match the transform data of the object that is driving, in this case, the chest. All this is doing is it's saying, all right, I see that you have some values here. I'm going to go ahead and move this to a lower level, also that you can work with these neutral values. But if I were to go ahead and expand this and kind of show you the values here, you could see that, all right, there is still an offset here. It's just being hidden right now since it has been brought, again, down to a lower level. Sweet. All right, so once we've managed to do this, now it's time to connect the transform values of our null into our offset values. So let's go ahead and search for our constraint. Here it is. Here's the constraint for the chest control. So once we have that selected, we can now go ahead and lock down this property page. The next step is to load in the transform values of the null. So let's say we go ahead and create a copy of our attributes manager. We'll go ahead and unlock this. We'll grab our null and then relock our panel. Now it's a matter of using the driven key system in Cinema 4D to finish our work here. I'll go ahead and right-click on the position x-axis of our null, since this is going to drive the transforms of our chest. So that's going to be expressions set driver. And now to tie this to the position x of our chest control, what we can do is go ahead and right-click and choose expressions set driven absolute. Now we can use absolute here because both values are 0. If there was a bit of an offset, you can always use set driven relative, which will allow you to maintain that offset. But it's not necessary here. I like to work with 0 values just because they're a lot easier. If we ever need to reset anything, we just keep that 0 value in mind. So again, we use set driver, we come over here to our right, and we choose set driven absolute. Let's go ahead and do this a few more times. So expression set driver, we'll jump down to the position Z. Expression set driven absolute. All right, 3 more and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and tie in our rotation. Set driver, set driven absolute. We'll go back to our left and choose our driver, and then back over to our right, set driven absolute. All right, one more time, and then we'll be able to test this out. Let's set driver, and then we'll jump to the bank axis, set driven absolute. All right, so here's the fun part. Let's say we go ahead and minimize our windows. I'll go ahead and start to scrub forward. All right, so what happens now if we want to add a rotational offset? Let's say on about frame 32. Well, take a look. It's very easy to do that now. We're actually driving the offset values in a very convenient way. How fun is that? Gotta love that. So now it's a lot easier to make these changes because we don't have to dig through our hierarchy to find a constraint tag that has offset values. Now it's just a matter of using this control here. And by the way, let me go ahead and unlock our attributes manager. If you ever wanted to, let's say, change the display of this null, you most certainly can. So if you find that point isn't quite working out for you, you might even use and then bring your radius up or down depending on its current size. Awesome. So in this lesson, we learn how to create an offset control. That way we can start to modify our performance throughout the animation, and we also learn how to correct flipping issues in areas like the spine.